It was January 29, 1945, in the small frozen Belgian village of Holzheim. Sergeant Leonard Funk found himself in a situation that would break most men. He was face to face with 90 armed German soldiers. These weren't just any German soldiers. These were men his company had captured earlier, men who had somehow rearmed themselves and were now reorganizing, preparing to attack Funk's company. The air was thick with tension, the sounds of distant fighting barely muffled by the snow. Suddenly, a German officer stepped forward, his face contorted with rage. He shoved the cold metal of an MP-40 submachine gun hard into Funk's stomach and started shouting in German, words Funk didn't fully understand but whose hostile intent was clear. In that moment, a strange reaction took hold of Funk. Instead of fear, he began to laugh, a deep, hearty laugh that echoed slightly in the cold air. This unexpected response confused the German officer, making his face twist further in a mix of bewilderment and fury. That laugh, that sudden, almost insane burst of humor, was the spark. It led to a lightning-fast, brutal skirmish that left 21 Germans dead and the rest scrambling to surrender. For his actions that day, Leonard Funk would ultimately receive the Medal of Honor. But how did a man like Funk end up in such an impossible situation, and what made him capable of such an extraordinary response? Leonard Alfred Funk Jr. was born on August 27, 1916, in Braddock Township, Pennsylvania. He grew up in a steel town, an environment that taught him responsibility early. As the older brother, he often looked after his younger sibling. The Great Depression hit hard, making college an impossible dream and jobs incredibly scarce. When June 1941 arrived, Funk, at 24 years old, was drafted into the military. Initially, his quiet competence and steady demeanor made him a candidate for administrative duty. But Funk had other ideas. He volunteered for the paratroopers, a brand new and incredibly dangerous branch of service. This was a choice that would define his military career. Airborne training was notoriously brutal. It lasted 5 weeks and was designed to weed out anyone who wasn't absolutely committed. Roughly half the recruits didn't make it. Funk later described the terrifying experience of his first jump from a C-47 transport plane at 200 feet, the wind roaring past, the ground rushing up. He earned his paratrooper wings and was assigned to C Company, 1st Battalion, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment. From there, he joined the 82nd Airborne Division in England, a unit already composed of combat-hardened veterans. At 27, Funk was older than most of his peers, but his maturity and quiet competence quickly made him stand out. He became a squad leader and then an acting first sergeant. Then came D-Day. On June 6, 1944, at 1:30 a.m., Funk's C-47 transport plane was hit by anti-aircraft fire over Normandy. The aircraft was flying too low, at only 400 feet, for a safe jump, but the pilots couldn't ascend due to the intense German fire. The D-Day airborne operation was a chaotic mess, with paratroopers scattered up to 50 miles from their intended drop zones. Many drowned in the flooded fields below or were killed as they landed directly into German positions. Funk landed hard, severely spraining his ankle. Despite the pain, he was still able to move and fight. He quickly buried his parachute and began navigating through the darkness, needing to cover 40 miles of occupied territory. Within hours, Funk, injured and alone, managed to gather 18 lost paratroopers from various units. He led this group for 10 days through German-occupied France, traveling only at night and hiding during the day. Despite his sprained ankle, he insisted on serving as the point man, placing himself in the most dangerous position to protect his men. On June 17th, he successfully brought all 18 men to the Allied lines without a single casualty. For his actions during this perilous journey, Leonard Funk was awarded the Silver Star, a Bronze Star, and his first Purple Heart. Just a few months later, in September 1944, Funk found himself part of an even larger and more ambitious operation, Market Garden in the Netherlands. This was the largest airborne assault in history, involving a staggering 35 Zero paratroopers. The Allied goal was audacious: capture a series of bridges over the Rhine River, opening a direct path into Germany and, optimistically, ending the war by Christmas. Field Marshal Montgomery's plan was incredibly ambitious: relying heavily on speed and surprise to succeed. However, the plan hit a major snag almost immediately. The British 1st Airborne Division, tasked with taking the furthest bridge at Arnhem, landed directly into unexpected SS Panzer divisions. Arnhem quickly became a grim cautionary tale, with only 2, or 0 of the 10, Zazro men who landed managing to escape with their lives. Funk's role in Market Garden was more direct, focusing on supporting the initial landings, securing drop zones, and clearing out German resistance. His company successfully secured its objective near Nijmegen, capturing vital bridges for the advancing ground forces. It was during this intense period that Funk once again displayed his extraordinary courage. He spotted 3 German 20mm flak-Vierling anti-aircraft guns, positioned to fire on approaching Allied gliders. These gliders were critical, carrying much-needed reinforcements, jeeps, artillery, and medical supplies. The loss of these gliders would have severely hampered the operation. The German gun position was well entrenched on high ground near Vauxhall, manned by approximately 20 German soldiers. Funk, however, had only 3 men in his patrol. This meant facing a 7-to-1 numerical disadvantage, a stark contrast to military doctrine, which typically required at least a 3-to-1 advantage for an attacking force. Despite the overwhelming odds, Funk didn't hesitate. He led his small 3-man patrol in an assault. They moved swiftly and silently, eliminating the security detachment before the Germans even knew what was happening. Then, with a sudden burst of aggression, they overran the enemy positions, neutralizing all 3 guns and their crews. This single, decisive action saved hundreds of lives by allowing the gliders to land safely and deliver their crucial cargo. For this incredible feat of bravery and leadership, Funk was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, the 2nd highest award for valor, adding it to his already impressive Silver Star. But the war was far from over. Just a few months later, in December 1944, the Germans launched their last desperate offensive of the war, known as the Battle of the Bulge. 3 German armies totaling 400 men and 400 tanks smashed through the American lines in the dense Ardennes forest. Their objective was ambitious: reach the strategic port of Antwerp, divide the Allied armies, and force a negotiated peace. Hitler's plan was audacious, and for a time, it nearly succeeded, catching the Allied forces completely by surprise. The fighting was brutal, the weather unforgiving, and the stakes incredibly high. Funk's company was right in the thick of it, caught in the sudden ambush. They fought for days in freezing weather, the cold biting at their skin, with supplies running dangerously low. Casualties mounted, but they held their ground, refusing to break. During one particularly intense firefight, Funk was severely wounded by shrapnel. A piece of metal tore into his side, but he refused to be evacuated. He kept fighting, leading his men, even with the pain, earning him his 2nd Purple Heart. The 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment endured 33 brutal days of continuous combat in the Ardennes, a testament to their resilience. They inflicted heavy losses on the Germans, playing a crucial role in turning the tide and ultimately contributing to the Allied victory in the Battle of the Bulge. Then, on January 29, 1945, the story circles back to Holzheim, Belgium, the scene of the incredible confrontation. Funk's company had just captured about 80 German soldiers in the village. With manpower stretched thin, only 4 American soldiers were assigned to guard the prisoners. It was a risky situation, and the Germans exploited it. They managed to rearm themselves from a pile of rifles left nearby, turning the tables on their captors. The German officer, now armed and emboldened, confronted Funk again, his prior rage still simmering. He shouted something in German, likely a demand or a threat. But Funk, instead of showing fear, started laughing again. It was a strange, unsettling sound, and it completely threw the German officer off balance. Funk's laughter was the unexpected turning point. It was a sound that disoriented the Germans, who expected submission or fear, not amusement. Still chuckling, Funk pulled out his .45 pistol. Without a word, he fired the entire magazine, not just at the German officer, but in a sweeping arc that took out several men around him. The sudden, deafening gunshots and the sight of their comrades falling sent a shockwave through the German ranks. Before they could react, Funk, his pistol now empty, didn't reload. Instead, he threw the heavy weapon directly at the German officer, hitting him square in the face. Then, in one fluid motion, he pulled out a hand grenade, yanked the pin, and tossed it into the cluster of rearmed Germans. The explosion rocked the small village square. But Funk wasn't done. He then pulled out his trench knife, a brutal utilitarian blade, and charged straight into the remaining Germans. His actions were so sudden, so aggressive, and so seemingly insane that it overwhelmed them. They were caught completely off guard by his sheer ferocity. The Germans, who moments before had been confident, panicked. They dropped their rifles, their will to fight evaporating in the face of Funk's terrifying, unstoppable assault. The remaining Germans immediately surrendered. When the dust settled, 21 German soldiers lay dead, killed in a matter of seconds by one man who refused to back down. After the chaos, Funk's company quickly secured the village and the remaining prisoners. His actions were immediately recognized as an extraordinary display of valor and leadership under the most extreme pressure. He had faced impossible odds not once but multiple times, and each time he had come out on top, saving countless lives in the process. For his unparalleled bravery that day in Holzheim, Leonard Funk was awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration in the United States. His story emphasizes his unique character, his remarkable calm under pressure, his unconventional and often terrifying tactics, and his deep dedication to his men. Leonard Funk's heroism stands as a lasting legacy, forever etched in the annals of World War II history, a true testament to the extraordinary courage found in ordinary men.